What's good? I go by Cyrus. This is Middle MAGA, and there's a lot of times where people want to silence your opinion or voice by stating you're not an expert. It's a very common thing nowadays. We saw this during the pandemic. It was a very big thing during the pandemic, and they will let you know that your voice shouldn't matter. You shouldn't have a say because you're not a doctor. You shouldn't have a say because you're not an expert in geopolitics and foreign affairs. And what I say is that's why I pay money, taxes. That's why Americans pay taxes and send these people to D.C. because we have things to do in our daily lives. And under any government, you would, and in a libertarian utopia, you would have people whose job it would be to make sure that everything was running well. You would just be more closely to these people, but those people would exist. Politics would exist. The government would exist. It would look a little bit different, but everybody can't be in charge of everything. So we pay and we send these people to Washington, D.C., and one of the people that we send there is the president. The president is the commander-in-chief of the army. So when it comes to war, that is the head honcho. There are checks and balances that our government has now ignored, but there are checks and balances there. But the commander-in-chief is the one taking us to war, taking us into battle, literally the military, but representing the country. And then your check and balances through the legislative branch, what they can do from impeaching to legislation. And I never pretend to be an expert, but just like when you go to the doctor, you get diagnosed. I'm not a doctor. I go to the doctor, get diagnosed. I say, Doc, give me this information. I say, Doc, I looked this up online. This is what I thought. What do you say here? And then I make the decision on whether I want to go forward with this procedure. The doctor never tells me, does not demand me, does not say, you're not an expert, so we are going to do this to you. That's not how it works. Joe Biden did a Oval Office speech today because it's that important, because he's clearly taken us to the brink of war, and he's got to make the case for it, a clear case as to why we should be there. And I remain unconvinced. I'm not convinced. So it doesn't matter if I'm an expert in this or an expert in that. This bra right here is the one who's supposed to make his case to me. And then I'll say whether I agree or whether I don't agree. And I'm going to start this speech here from the Oval Office, and I'm going to pick it up to the point. There's one big part of this that was very important. And he got to it pretty early on. And let me know what you think, where you side on this.
Meanwhile, Putin denies Ukraine has or ever had real statehood. He claims the Soviet Union created Ukraine. And just 2 weeks ago, he told the world that if the United States and our allies withdraw, and if the United States withdraw, our allies will as well, military support for Ukraine would have, quote, a week left to live, but we're not withdrawing. I know these conflicts can seem far away. And it's natural to ask, why does this matter to America? So let me share with you why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital for America's national security. You know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the cost and the threats to America and the world keep rising. So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine. Putin's already threatened to remind, quote, remind Poland that their Western land was a gift from Russia. One of his top advisors, a former president of Russia, has called Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania Russia's Baltic provinces. These are all NATO allies. For 75 years, NATO has kept peace in Europe and has been the cornerstone of American security. And if Putin attacks a NATO ally, we will defend every inch of NATO which the treaty requires and calls for. We'll have something that we do not seek. Make it clear, we do not seek. We do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. Beyond Europe, we know that our allies, and maybe most importantly our adversaries and competitors, are watching. They're watching our response in Ukraine as well. And if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, would-be aggressors around the world would be emboldened to try the same. The risk of conflict and chaos could spread in other parts of the world, in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East. Iran is supporting Russia in Ukraine, and it's supporting Hamas and other terrorist groups in the region.
Oh.
And will continue to hold them accountable, I might add. The United States and our partners across the region are working to build a better future for the Middle East. One where the Middle East is more stable, better connected to its neighbors, and through innovative projects like the India-Middle East-Europe Rail Corridor that I announced this year at the summit of the world's biggest economies. More predictable markets, more employment, less rage, less grievances, less war when connected. It benefits the people who would benefit the people of the Middle East and would benefit us. American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keep us, America, safe. American values are what make us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put all that at risk, if we walk away from Ukraine, if we turn our backs on Israel, it's just not worth it. That's why tomorrow I'm going to send to Congress an urgent budget request to fund America's national security needs, to support our critical partners, including Israel and Ukraine, is a smart investment that's going to pay dividends for American security for generations.
Okay, so that's his case. He wrapped up his case right there for why Americans should care before he said, I'm going to ask for the money. That's what he said here. Why? Is because that support for the money is waning. And it is obvious, it is, I would say, very convenient. No allegations being made. It is very convenient that the Israel topic has come up. So now that you can roll that money in together. Israel with Ukraine together. So if you don't support the bill, now you're anti-Semitic, basically is what we're going down the road. And later on the speech, what does he talk about? Anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. These are words that don't have any meaning. Let's go back and unpack this. This 2 minutes here is the most crucial 2 minutes out of anything we've heard from Joe Biden or any public official on our stance in Israel. Right here. He lays it out. I'm going to give you the case. You might be 7,000 miles away. Why should you care about Semites on Semite crime 7,000 miles away from where you are?
America. So let me share with you why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital for America's national.
That's the first problem. You have not defined what success is. You have not defined what the problem is. You have not defined what the goal is with our involvement. None of that is defined. He says the success. What does that mean?
Would have, quote, a week left to live, but we're not withdrawing. I know these conflicts can seem far away. And it's natural.
They seem far away. They are far away. They seem far away because it's hard to be further away than you are from me with these conflicts.
We'll ask, why does this matter to America? So let me share with you why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital.
You haven't defined what that means. That's a big problem.
Vital for America's national security. You know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death.
So what does that mean? Are you calling Putin a dictator, or are you what kind of punishment are you hoping to enact? Again, very vague terms, no historical perspectives. Notice he says that, or okay, what's the historical perspective? He's probably bringing up World War II type of stuff.
And more destruction. They keep going. And
they keep going. That was the fear. And that's the concern. So they're going to keep going. That's the concern. That still doesn't convince me. And if he, say hypothetically, I mean, right now, Ukraine doesn't have any motivation to negotiate with Russia if we keep funding their warmongering habit. They are likes to fight guy. Their brothers and sisters are very similar to Israel and all the countries from Lebanon to Egypt to Jordan, all of them. They're all brothers, cousins. They're like all relatives. Ukrainians and the Eastern Ukrainians and the Western Russians, they're like brothers. They're having this beef, this popping off. Without the money from the United States, they would have to work something out. They would have the motivation to work something out with Russia. With the money from us, there's no motivation. What's the motivation for Israel to act appropriately when we're giving them $3+ billion a year, and then now they ask for $10 billion, and we're going straight to Congress to ask for it. And I'll take a side note. Don't let anybody tell you that Congress can't fund the money. The only thing that the Constitution says is that you have to have a Speaker of the House. That's it. It doesn't say who. It doesn't say who it has to be. They could nominate you, Donald Young. Every single frozen frame, his face, I can't get over it. He looks terrible, but this is who we've elected to be our leader. What's up, Ray Studios? The House tomorrow could vote and elect Ray Studios as Speaker. And then they could pass whatever legislation you want. They could do it for a day. They could say Ray is going to be Speaker of the House just for this vote. So it might take that vote, then they would have to do another vote, but they can pass whatever legislation they want. So I don't know why people are saying they can't, the House is frozen, they can pass whatever they want. Democrats can vote however they want. It's maddening watching people lie about this. The House they can make their own rules. They do make their own rules. They can easily pass it. Yes, Ray repping with from friend of the show, Carlos. Look sharp, doesn't I like it with the black Prime Animation shirt? Ray's like, I noticed you got that Prime Animation shirt. Repping. And so they can pass the bill. That's not a concern. That's not an issue. If they want to, they can. And I'm perfectly fine if they don't, because that's by design. Charlie Kirk, I'm a big supporter of Charlie Kirk. I speak very highly of Charlie Kirk. He is getting on my nerves with his takes on the House. He has some of that. He has a little bit of that establishment in him, where he even uses the word they can't govern. Charlie knows better than anyone this is by design. This is gridlock on top of gridlock. When you have the House not dominated, but majority Republican, whatever that means, and then the Senate is majority Democrat, whatever that means. It's hard for them to pass legislation that is not failing to govern, that is by design. Our country is more divided than it has ever been in the history of the Union, and that includes slavery. I'm not going to digress too much into that. I have a whole video on that. You can go back to this channel. I think it's called something like Worse Than Slavery. Our country is more divided from the inception of the country than it has ever been. So why would it be simple for the House to pass any legislation to fund the government or to even pick a speaker? The Democratic side is in lockstep. That is not organic. Democrats are having the same battle. It's just that you don't have any true populists representing the country in D.C. So they all are bought off. They're fake. They're phony. Whatever the machine says, whether it's Israel, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's black, whether it's this, they're all lockstep inside. Now, you have a few who kind of pander to others, but when it comes down to voting for Israel, the people that are pretending to side with Palestinians, have the Palestinian flag outside their office, they are in lockstep. They are not going against that. But on the Republican side, you had Trump come up, Bannon with MAGA movement, beat Hillary in 2016, opened the door for a couple people to get into the House that you could consider MAGA or could consider different than your typical, even if you call them corporate Republicans, different than your typical corporate Republicans. Matt Gaetz says to Kevin McCarthy, we made a deal, you didn't live up to the deal, now my foot is in your ass and get the hell up out of here. And I don't care what the consequences are afterwards. I'm not owning you anymore. And that's where we're at now. So we don't know what's going to happen going forward. The rules are more important than who's in the speaker position. I don't even know where we're at with the rules. I've been following the Gaza stuff. So that's that's in the backdrop of him after he makes his case here to ask for money from that group. And that's why it's so important to bring Israel into it. And that's why I was so upset with MAGA, like Matt Gaetz saying, I stand with Israel. You're shilling for Israel is what you're doing. If you stand for Israel, then you would say, I'm America first, always. And then here's where I can fit Israel in underneath that. That's not what even Matt Gaetz didn't say that. So you bring the Israel conflict into it, and then now you fund Ukraine, even though the rope, we're nearing the end of that rope, but we're still funding it. John Kirby said that. And I believe John Kirby knows what's going on with that. So that's the backdrop of it. So you bring Israel into it, and it's like, yes, got MAGA. So now you're going to have to go into this. Otherwise, you're anti-Semitic. Let me bring this back a few seconds. So this is his answer. If you're just joining me, this is his answer for why Americans should care.
When dictators don't pay a price for their aggression.
That doesn't mean anything. Give me your historical references for that.
They cause more chaos and death and more destruction.
That's not my problem. There's people dying, there's chaos, there's death, there's people dying all over the world. That's not my problem, so you haven't made an argument yet for why I should care.
They keep going. And the cost and the threats to America and the world keep rising.
Oh, the cost to America keeps rising. So did Joe Biden go on TV and call the Federal Reserve a terrorist organization? Because that's why our costs keep rising. Is that what he just did?
Pay a price for their terror. When dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going. And the cost and the threats to America and the world keep rising.
The cost to America, I just want to talk about the cost. So the cost to America keeps rising. Why? I'm asking, why should I care? Part of his answer is, you should care because the cost to America is rising because we have to get involved. That's not an answer. You're trying to define or answer the question with the question itself. No, Joe, my question is, why are we spending money there? That's why the cost is rising. Why? Because the Federal Reserve has to print money. Those tanks and stuff, those things are expensive. Turns out they're pretty expensive. And the drones and the bombing, oh, that's really expensive. I'm looking at the war and I'm looking like, how much does this thing cost? And I go Google it real quick. And I'm like, damn, that thing costs $10 million. A drone just took it out in 2 seconds. A drone that cost $50,000 just took it out. Maybe we shouldn't use those things anymore. This is in Ukraine, or I'm seeing videos of what these things might be. I don't even know if this is real footage. But you see the drones have changed the game. They're much cheaper. They're like kamikaze. They're basically like the Japanese kamikaze planes from back in the day, but no one has to be in them. So you just fly them into the target and you fly them into the tank, and the tank goes up, and the tank is a 1 million, 2 million, 5 million. And the drone's only 500,000, 200,000, 100,000, 50,000. I win. The drone's gone. I sacrifice a pawn to take out a knight. But if you're talking about the cost rising, then you should consider the Federal Reserve a terrorist organization, because that's where the cost is rising from.
So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for, they keep going. and the cost and the threats to America and
The threats to America, the southern border is just wide open, basically. From all accounts that I've seen, I haven't gone down myself. I'm good. I saw a video on X where they're showing just a gunfight at the southern border. It's nothing. The video is nothing from it seems credible to me. It's at the southern border, and it's nothing with somebody on their cell phone taking cover behind a truck, and it's 2 minutes of just people going down. You can see people getting down on cover and firing. It's like a gang war. It's like the cartels or somebody in a gang war right at the southern border. So that should be a concern as well. Then,
there. When dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the cost and
see the reason why he can't do the historical references is because it won't line up. Even if you go with the World War II reference, then if you have to make the guy with the funny mustache unlive himself, is that what your goal is in Russia? He doesn't want to answer those questions or get into those details.
So if we don't stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine.
There it is. So he's making the comparison without making it because he can't defend it. That's why I'm very big on debate and discussion.
Cause more chaos and death and more destruction. They keep going, and the cost and the threats to America and the world keep rising. So if we don't...
So we're over there now, and we just saw, this morning I saw that there's a world travel advisory. Let me look at what it's technically called here. World Travel Advisory that went up and said, you know what? Don't go anywhere. Worldwide, well, let me read what it says. I'm not going to say don't go anywhere. Let me read what it says here. It says stay alert. This is the Department of State. Caution, October 19th. It says, due to increased tensions in various locations around the world that we're all involved with, the potential for terrorist attacks, demonstrations, or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests, the Department of State advises U.S. citizens overseas to exercise increased caution. U.S. citizens should stay alert in locations frequented by tourists. That's kind of like everywhere. If you're not in a tourist location, then you're, depending on which country you're in obviously a very dangerous situation or a more dangerous situation. Enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program to receive information and alerts to make it easier to locate you in emergency overseas. Follow the Department of State on Facebook and Twitter. That's on the official government website. Yeah, if you have to follow the government on on a platform, then you should have free speech on the platform. If that's serious. So they have a world advisory. Which Greg Wilson, thank you. I haven't seen you in a minute. Appreciate you. Middle MAGA. World War III, are you ready? Censorship leads to the NWO. No, I'm not ready. And hopefully we don't get there. We're on the brink of that. I don't know what the goal is here. I don't know if the goal is for us to get to the brink or to get as close to that as possible. I don't know what their end goal is. But they're taking us dangerously close to this.
Stop Putin's appetite for power and control in Ukraine, he won't limit himself just to Ukraine.
If the goal is to stop Putin's appetite for power, then why isn't the U.S. just going straight up at Putin then? None of this, every single point he made makes no sense. I can refute every single argument he just made thus far for us getting involved.
Putin's already threatened to remind Poland.
Now remember, I don't want to go straight up at, there's no reason to me that Russia should be an enemy of ours to begin with. But I like the China plan. China has basically no friends. They have no real allies. They just have partners that they work with, and they have no real enemies. You notice it's funny that these Birkenstock-wearing Arabs in the Middle East, these Semites in the Middle East, I don't hear them saying death to China. Why is that? They could easily say that. China got beef with Muslims all the time. Or they got different relationships and different. I don't hear them in the streets say death to China. Why they don't get? China doesn't get up in their business like that. That's why. China doesn't do what this guy's saying here. China will come through. They look at China looks down on them. China looks down on them as idiots in the desert. That's how China looks at them. Just like China looks at Russia as warmongering, Neanderthals. China doesn't look at Russians in a high. China thinks they're above everyone, and I'm talking about the government in sophistication. They look at Africans as jungle people. They look at the Arabs as desert people. They look at the Russians as likes to fight guy. They might have a point with their assertions, but that's how they look at people. They don't look at you as like you're a worthy adversary. So they come in and they might say, hey, you can borrow some money. We'll build up some infrastructure here and we might spy on you or not, whatever. Don't read the fine print. And we're actually going to help you. And we're going to dominate you through debt is basically what we're going to dominate you by owning your infrastructure. They went through Jamaica and made a deal with, we can be, you Jamaicans, you're on the island, you got dirt roads. Oh, we'll build up the dirt roads. We'll give you some infrastructure for 5G and stuff like that. All you have to do is take this loan from us. And when you can't pay that, then you basically do what we want you to do. And you don't hear anybody yelling death to China. It's just not a thing. Somebody correct me if you ever seen. I can't remember in my life ever hearing another country where there's people in the street rallying, throwing Molotov cocktails at the embassy, I don't see people going in the streets saying, "Unlive China, death to China, we don't like China." Why is that? Because they don't do what this guy's trying to get us into right now. That's my opinion on it.
That their Western land was a gift from Russia.
So what?
One of his top advisors.
What does Poland's land have to do with me? Poland's gonna have to work that out.
There's a former president of Russia has called Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania Russia's Baltic provinces.
So what? Maybe they are. And?
These are all NATO allies.
So what? See, the question is why? Yeah, I know they're NATO allies. Why? What's the point of it? You're not answering the question. Why is Israel an ally? Answer the question. Now I've had Rayon, Carlos on. They're able to answer the question pretty much from a biblical standpoint where they're coming from. Just answer the question. See, they answer the question and can articulate themselves. This right here is foolishness.
For 75 years, NATO has kept peace in Europe and has been the cornerstone of American security. And if Putin attacks a NATO ally, we will defend every inch of NATO which the treaty requires.
The question is why?
Calls for it. We'll have
it's not my job to have peace over there in Europe. Why am I worried about peace in Europe?
Something that we
don't have peace here.
Do not seek. Make it clear, we do not seek. We do not seek to have American troops fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia.
What does that have to? That's not an argument for why we're over there involved.
Beyond Europe, we know that our allies and maybe most importantly our adversaries and competitors are watching. They're watching our response in Ukraine as well. And if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, would-be aggressors around the world would be emboldened to try the same.
Why are we involved over there? Because if we're not involved over there, people will get interested in taking over land. That doesn't answer why we're involved over there. So then now the question is, okay, why do I care if Russia, hypothetically, if Russia took over all of Ukraine, why do I care? Yeah, he hasn't. You can try to give me answers in the chat. He's the commander in chief. He's the one he's the one on the Oval Office. The first time I've seen, I can remember him making an Oval Office primetime argument. He's the one making the argument. He has not.
Risk of conflict and chaos could spread in other parts of the world.
So what?
In the Indo-Pacific.
Now, if you want to do diplomacy with words, trade, whatever other non-aggressive stuff you've got, I'm not for sanctions, but like legitimate sanctions are basically you starve out the poor people of your country to hopefully have them get angry at the leaders. Well, that's a hell of a strategy. That's a hell of a strategy. Because when you do sanctions on these countries, the leaders are still in their palaces eating grapes fed to them by naked hot chicks. And the poor people, they don't have water and bread. So I'm not for that. That's not a real strategy. That's just a fancy way of doing what Israel did with the Gaza Strip by taking off the electricity, food, water, cutting off the resources. Basically, that's a sanction. That's basically what the U.S. tries to do with sanctions. So when you do sanctions on North Korea, what is that? What are you accomplishing? You've got the poor people, poor and hungry. You got sanctions all over the world, all these different countries. They sanctioned Russia. What is that doing? It's doing absolutely nothing. So no, I'm not for that at all. But if you want to do real diplomacy, like I hate to say it, like China does, then yeah, you can pull all those levers, like Donald Trump did, pulling all those levers with China, saying, "Hey, whoa, we we want to have a relationship with you, but if you don't change this, we're changing this." So we understand, and he had to go to the agriculture and farmers and tell them, "Hey, at long term, this is going to work," and I think it did for China to be like, "Yeah, I don't know what we can do here," and that's all straight up non-aggression, no war. That's just straight up leader to leader. What's our relationship? So instead of doing that, if in any situation, I'm talking to my children right now about any situation. I'm talking to my children. Oh, basically my oldest. I got 4 and 7-year-old now. My oldest one in particular, telling him, and he's not violent at all, so I'm not concerned from that. But he's still developing, and I'm telling him that. And I forgot how it came up. We were talking about, I don't know, road rage or something. Maybe it was on like a radio show or we were a TV show or something. And where I'm at in Colorado, for some reason, road rage is like a huge thing. I don't know if people are stressed out, but it's just a Colorado thing. And I tell them that you don't want to. It's easy to walk out the door every day if you want beef to find beef. That's easy. And that's what we're doing here as a country. If you want to find beef, you can find beef. That ain't a problem. But if you want to work towards peace, that's why I was actually more for the Martin Luther King Jr. path than the Malcolm X path, even though Malcolm X had great energy and his speeches were good and a lot of merit to what he said. But I like kind of, that's how I kind of end up in the middle, because I take, not being wishy-washy, it's just I take the good part from Malcolm X and the good part from Martin Luther King Jr. and I say, why can't we just have a new nigga that got both of the things I like? And you got to be able to avoid violence to get what you want. So China is not, you don't see China out here with, when's the last time China popped off with anybody? I think it was India. China and India had a little bit of skirmishes recently, and it's very rare. And then now China got India into the BRICS stuff. And I think that's part of it, because they're like, well, if they're invested in what we're invested in, we might not have beef. Greg Wilson, $5 super chat says, and I'll get back to buying. The great Baltinian speaks. We must listen. We must spend your money. I get a 10% for the big guy. Peasants bow down. And then I haven't even got to that. Thank you, Greg. I didn't even talk about that. When we look at Ukraine, we haven't even hashed out like you and your family making money off of these decisions that you're making. And Rand Paul gets up and says, I'm okay with the money to Ukraine. I just want to have a special inspector follow the funds. And everybody got crazy out of their mind, like, no! Could you imagine being in a relationship, married, especially married when you're dealing with funds more than just like dating? You're married with someone, to someone, and you're kind of like, hey, can I see the funds or the bank account or whatever? And they say no. What kind of, like, what do you mean? You said, what do you mean no? This is the bank account. I want to know what are we doing? We're married, locked in together forever. Can I look at the bank account? And Rand Paul says we've got this war going on. I'm okay with funding it. I don't think he really is, but his point was, don't try to put me on that scale of supporting Putin. Send the money over. I just want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on where it's going. And everybody was like, no, no. He wasn't even against the money. So we know that there's 10% for the big guy, and we don't know what the hell else is going on. We found out through the Ponzi scheme of the FTX and the FBS, this 3-letter acronyms from the people to the company, wheeling and dealing money, stealing it from common people, sending it over to Ukraine, washing it out, coming back to Democrats to squash the midterm, the MAGA movement in the midterms, all in a circle, just wash, reload, wash, reload. And people think like, okay, well, what if they pick Hakeem Jeffries as speaker? I still haven't heard the argument for why that matters. Kevin McCarthy took the congressional leadership funds, took money from FTX, and spent it against MAGA candidates. So it's not, I mean, that's not your argument about raising money. Charlie Kirk's arguments like the House Speaker's got to raise money. What did Kevin McCarthy raise money against you? So that's not an argument. I'm fine with what's going on there. But when the Balchinian speaks, you must listen. Thank you, Greg Wilson, with the $5 super chat. Not only do I remain unconvinced, he's getting me more amped up against the money overseas. So this isn't working out how he intended it to. But if you're not paying attention to this stuff, you got to look at it from the lens of someone who's just not paying attention. Paying attention, they might be like, "Oh, I get it. You have to send troops over there for our safety." Just some general idea. And you ask somebody, "What does that mean?" They probably won't even be able to tell you.
They're watching our response in Ukraine as well. And if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, would-be aggressors around the world would be emboldened to try the same. The risk of conflict and chaos could spread in other parts of the world.
See, if you were really concerned about that, you would start with North America. You would start with South America. You would start with Central America. You would start with the countries that are sending people through our borders. You would, if you really cared about what's happening outside the border, you would start with relationships there, the countries that are actually close to us. What is our relationship with Venezuela? Are we creating the problems in Venezuela that's leading people to come up through the border to us and not looking across the pond, not looking 7,000 miles away? You would start there first. So you know what he's saying doesn't make sense. I don't agree. And it's also a lie. You don't care about that because you would handle it how it affects us here first.
In the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East, Iran is supporting Russia in Ukraine.
So what?
And it's supporting Hamas and other terrorist groups in the region.
Oh,
and we'll
see that part really gets on my nerves because Israel supported Hamas because they thought, basically, Israel thought Hamas was going to be a tool that they could use to justify the actions that you're seeing now. I said that I don't believe that Israel cares about the citizens who died on October 7th. And I said that because what have you seen the Israeli government do in reaction to those horrific deaths that shows you that they put those hostages and deaths above their own self-interest beyond that? Everything that they're doing now, and I'm really not updated on where the ground invasion is. I saw the, what do we call it? The teddy bear. We talked about that big bulldozer. We actually saw some video online that it looks like we saw the teddy bear, but it was purported to be in the West Bank. Again, this is a fog of war. When I say purported, that means that person said so. I don't know. But so I said, why are they doing that? What's coming from that? That's where we are right now. So let me show real quick if I can find that. So they supported Hamas. So they wanted that. They before the Birkenstock paragliders came through their country and just was wreaking havoc, they wanted to go through the Gaza with a bulldozer like the teddy bear. After the hostages, after the deaths, they're going through the Gaza with a bulldozer like the teddy bear. They have not explained. Egypt said that they warned them. Some people are saying 3 days. I saw 10 days. Some people are saying that they were warned days in advance, not of the exact type of attack, but that something was going to happen. So you would think they would be on red alert and not take hours if something happens. And they have not explained it. What they said was it's fake news. Does that sound like they care about the people who died? If Netanyahu cared about the people who died, he would resign. He would say, I care about them so much and I feel so bad because of what happened to them that I'm resigning. And I will still help however I can in the pursuit to bringing those back and to move on in the honor of their dying, of their deaths. I haven't seen one action at all from the Israeli government separate from what they've always wanted to do in reaction to their deaths. So I feel like you might not agree. I feel like I'm justified to say, because I haven't seen that they do not care about their deaths. Otherwise, you would see them do something outside of what they've always wanted to do in order to honor or to try to get the hostages released. This teddy bear is something else. It's not a good full picture of it, but this video here, I'm going to pull this up off of X. X platform is where everything's happening, with where's everything's at. We're seeing more footage of this is all alleged, but we're seeing footage of other strikes. Remember, Israel, while we're arguing over who killed who and which babies happened to what babies, they are bombing Gaza continuously. Last I saw, 5,000 deaths involved. Who knows if these death tolls are accurate, but here's purportedly from Jackson Hinkle, who I've become a big fan and supporter of. Your tax dollars are being sent to Israel so they can drop bombs on Palestinian civilians. So that's what he's trying to argue in favor for. Again, I don't know what these videos are. Purportedly shows, this one is not community noted. I don't know if that means anything. They called it Israeli terrorists continue to drop bombs on civilians in residential buildings. Let's take a kind of a look and see if there's audio on this one. So I don't know if these are terrorist targets or what targets are, or I don't even know when that was taken or whatever. But we know they are bombing. There's no one arguing that, and that's the type of stuff we're seeing. And I'm gonna see if I can find. Let me see if I can find the Jackson Hinkle. I think Jackson Hinkle's where I actually saw this video from today where they were taking a bulldozer. Let's see. I'm curious to see if there's a community note on it. Community notes is something that I really think has become disgusting. But I would say I would like it if you could hide it and say just default hide it and then click on it if there's any context I might want. Okay, so let's take a look here. They're still talking about the hospital. Then there's more bombings, more hospital stuff. War monitors is one of the best resources on Israel and Gaza. The count was just locked by 12 hours for no reason. Wow. They said they violated the rules. I don't know what that means there. Oh, and you know that there was the clip that I played yesterday that the gentleman, I forgot his, Bassem Youssef, I believe his name is, the Egyptian comedian told Piers Morgan, you were talking about the 40 babies being beheaded. And for whatever reason, Piers Morgan said, no, I wasn't. And there's literally a clip of him talking about it. Is this the, I don't know where the clip is, but they were basically asking him, like, and they have the actual clip of him talking about it. He just flat out lied. It's unbelievable. Just flat out basically lied about it. So I'm going through here, and there's so many different good people to follow on this stuff. I just follow. I think Jackson Hinkle's actually turned out to be more MAGA than a lot of people who might be considered MAGA. And here's the video of the teddy. I think this is the teddy bear right here. We just talked about this machine. It's a bulldozer. Big, slow bulldozer. Yep, it looks just like it from the pictures. And it's bulldozing because we're in this urban warfare. You're going to have mines and all kinds of things. This thing can run over the mines and still be protected and safe. It can run over the rubble, bulldoze the rubble to clear a way to get tanks in there. And I don't know the terrain or anything like that. So to me, it seems like you want to probably be more nimble than a tank, but I don't know. If you know that there's no mines, maybe you're fine. But then there's underneath the ground here, there's reportedly miles and miles of tunneling. So you're not even safe just bulldozing like that.
Seek to have American troops fight.
So let's get back to Biden here. I'm almost done with Biden.
Fighting in Russia or fighting against Russia. Beyond Europe, we know that our allies and maybe most importantly our adversaries and competitors are watching. They're watching our response in Ukraine as well. And if we walk away and let Putin erase Ukraine's independence, would-be aggressors around the world would be emboldened to try the same. The risk of conflict and chaos could spread in other parts of the world, in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East, especially in the Middle East. Iran is supporting Russia in Ukraine, and it's supporting Hamas and other terrorist groups in the region, and will continue to hold them accountable, I might add. The United States and our partners across the region are working to build a better future for the Middle East. One where the Middle East is more stable, better connected to its neighbors, and through innovative projects like the India-Middle East-Europe Rail Corridor that I announced this year at the summit of the world's biggest economies. More predictable markets, more employment, less rage, less grievances, less war when connected. It benefits the people who would benefit the people of the Middle East and would benefit us. American leadership is what holds the world together. American alliances are what keep us, America, safe. American values are what make us a partner that other nations want to work with. To put all that at risk, if we walk away from Ukraine, if we turn our backs on Israel, it's just not worth it. That's why tomorrow.
So that's his whole argument. None of it matters it matters what his argument is, but none of it resonates with me. And this is from The Intercept from back in the day, blowback. So not only do I not agree with anything he said, he's purposely leaving
The Palestinian militant group
very
Hamas has
important
carried
details.
out brutal acts of terror against
this is
Israeli
from
civilians,
Intercept, back
and
when
Israeli and
Intercept
American
was
leaders are
Intercept.
always keen to
Mehdi
tell us
Hassan
how dangerous and
wrote
evil
for
Hamas
Intercept.
is.
The inhumanity of
Before he
Hamas.
got
I have
allegedly
no sympathy
suspended
for
from
Hamas.
MSNBC.
that keep shelling Israel with
reassigned.
thousands of rockets.
What do you know about
mortar
Hamas?
shells.
What if
That
I
it's
told you that
sworn to
Israel
destroy
helped
Israel, that
create
it's a terrorist
Hamas?
group prescribed both by the United States and the EU, that it rules Gaza with the iron fist. This is from 2018. But did
Officially,
you also
Hamas,
know that
which is the acronym
Hamas,
for an Arabic phrase meaning Islamic
which is
resistance
an
movement,
Arabic
was founded in
acronym for Islamic
1987
resistant
at the start
movement,
of the
would
first
probably
Palestinian
not
Intifada or
exist today if it were not for the
uprising
Jewish
against the Israeli
state,
occupation.
that the
But its
Israelis
roots were
helped
planted
turn a bunch of fringe
earlier. The Hamas
Palestinians.
founder, Sheikh
So this is
Ahmed
going back to the
Yassin, was a
1970s.
half-blind,
They kind of had a
disabled
choice
Palestinian
between the
cleric and member
PLO
of the
and
Muslim Brotherhood.
Hamas,
The
and they
Brotherhood
made
had
their
been
decision.
repressed by the Egyptians
In the late
in Gaza
1970s
prior
into
to
one of the world's most
1967.
notorious
But once the
militant
Israelis
groups,
invaded and
that
occupied the
Hamas is
Strip,
blowback.
They didn't just turn a
This
blind
isn't
eye
a conspiracy
to these
theory.
Islamists. They
Listen to
encouraged
former
them.
Israeli
See, the
officials.
Israelis, especially right-wing Israelis, wanted to
Yitzhak
undermine the power of the
Segev,
dominant
who was
Palestinian
the Israeli
force at that
military
time,
governor
the nationalist
in
PLO,
Gaza in the early
at the heart
80s.
of which was the secular
Segev
Fatah party
later
of
told
Yasser
a New York
Arafat,
Times
their
reporter
bête
that
noire.
he helped finance the Palestinian Islamist movement as a counterweight to the secularists and leftists of the Palestine
By empowering
Liberation
Sheikh Yassin
Organization,
and the
that's
Muslim
the
Brotherhood,
PLO,
Israeli
led
leaders
by
thought they
Yasser
could divide and rule
Arafat,
the
who
occupied Palestinians, play them
to as
off against
Hamas
each other,
as a
secular
creature of
nationalists
Israel.
against religious Islamists.
The Israeli
So
government
in
gave me a budget.
1978, when
The
Yassin
retired
wanted to officially
brigadier
register
general
his Islamic
confessed, and the
Association,
military
which
government
was
gives
basically
to the
precursor
mosques.
Hamas, the Israelis
Hamas,
were
to
only
my
too
great
keen
regret,
to help.
is
Yassin
Israel's
built
creation.
and grew a network of Islamist social institutions across
So
Gaza,
Joe Biden would never,
including
you want to
schools
talk
and
about
clubs
history
and
of
mosques,
dictators and stuff
and
like that.
Israel helped
I think
fund
it's
some
pretty
of those
important.
projects.
Wouldn't it be pretty
Most
important to
American
mention
politicians have
that
no clue about
when
any of this.
you're talking
Although
about how
former
bad they
Republican
are
Congressman Ron Paul
and how you need to
once
put
made
more
this
money
point
into
on the
it,
floor of the House.
and how
Hamas
Joe
was
Biden
encouraged and really started by
said,
Israel because
we're
they
going to do
wanted
$100 million
Hamas
to
counteract
Palestinians.
Yasser
We're
Arafat.
separating them
Arafat
from
himself
Hamas.
told an Italian newspaper,
And
quote,
we're going to give
Hamas
$100 million
is a creature of
to
Israel.
Palestinians.
He even claimed
And
that
he
former
said
Israeli
himself
Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin
that
admitted as
Hamas
much
could
to him,
take the
calling
resources,
it a fatal
money
error. Now,
themselves.
you might be wondering, why
And
should I
basically was
believe
saying, well, if they
mad
do
Ron
that, that's
Paul or
what
the
can we do? We'd
famously
still try to give
shady
them money.
Yasser Arafat? Well,
So
you don't have to.
during
You can
now, right
believe
now,
top
he's
Israeli
willing
and
to
US officials
give money
who
to fund
basically
them.
owned up to all this. Brigadier Yitzhak Segev,
Audio
for example,
levels
who
are
was the
imbalance.
Israeli
Oh, with
military
the,
governor
sorry,
in
with
Gaza,
the,
and later told a
yeah,
New
I
York
should have
Times
turned my
reporter
mic
that
down.
she
I think that's
helped
what I'm going to
finance
do
the
now with the
Islamic
lower
movement.
my stuff
The
is to
Israeli government gave me a budget,
turn
he said,
1 2 1
and the
2.
military government
Turn
gives
the
to
mic
the
down. But I'm done with that.
Colonel
that
David
Biden clip.
Hakam,
Thank you
who
for
worked
that.
in Gaza
Oh,
in the
video's
late
running over the
1980s
audio right now.
as an Arab affairs expert in the Israeli military, has admitted that the
I didn't have video in my headset. Sorry. I didn't have video in my headset from the intercept there. But if the video was over, if the audio was over that, basically the intercept from Mehdi Hassan from 2018, it should be done now because I'm not sharing, is just talking about how Israel created Hamas. Now, there might have been legit reasons. Like, these are the type of things, if the U.S. wasn't interjecting money into the region, these would be the type of things that would have to happen over there. They would have to work with Muslims and to survive different groups. It's still playing in the background right now. I have audio in the background right now. I can't hear anything. Hold on. Oh, shoot. I just closed all my tabs out. My bad. That's weird. I can't hear anything. I closed everything out. I don't even have my music pod up. Let me make sure my phone's down. I don't have any levels on anything. Let me know if that's good now. I think I probably fixed it, and it takes a while for y'all to catch up. My bad. I could not hear that playing through my headset. Let me know if that's fixed. So right now we're looking at major war potentially coming. And we don't know what's going to happen. Let me know if the audio is fixed there. I think I shut everything down. You're good now. Okay. Thank you. This Justin, haven't seen you in a minute. Donald Young, of course. So what's up? Dan Plemick. What's good? Got people I haven't seen in a minute come through. Yay. Hey, what's up? Twitch. We got a Twitch user coming through. I haven't seen Twitch in a minute. Twitch user in a minute. Yeah, I do put it up on Twitch, even though I don't even know how to use Twitch. I don't even go up on Twitch like that. But I have concerns about trusting the government. I'm going to show you a big reason as to why. We heard the United States government. This right here is Pentagon Press Secretary. You're going to hear Pat Ryder. And let me pull that up. Hopefully there's no additional audio that I'm not able to hear. And it's just this right here. Pat Ryder on hospital explosion. And this isn't, I'm not getting into the hospital explosion too much. This is more about the trust, the presentation going forward. I don't know what happened with the hospital. I'm not going on either side of that. I don't know what happened. But I will say this. I am confident they are hiding something. And I think you'll probably be able to hear why I say that.
Of what the president claimed and what the Israelis are saying, noting that many hospitals have been targeted, civilian and UN facilities by Israel. Are you willing to share the data that you have that the president used?
So let's a couple things here. So
yeah, we got to bring these back. The question was about the hospital.
There's lots of questioning of what the president claimed and what the Israelis are saying.
Okay, so there's a lot happening with this hospital thing, and I think there's some really shady stuff going on. Let's just say that. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who did what, but there is something around this hospital situation that they're very concerned about. Yesterday on the live, played Joe Biden on Air Force One, and John Kirby and Blinky were right behind him, and they were scared out of their minds. You could see it on their face. And these are people who are professionally, basically trained to try and hide these things. They were panicked. I don't know what's going on here. So they're asking about it. The information from the U.S. doesn't seem to totally line up with the information from Israel. That's not lining up with the information from Hamas. Do I trust any of them? No, I don't trust none of them. But the information isn't lining up.
Noting that many hospitals have been targeted, civilian and UN facilities by Israel. Are you willing to share the data that you have that?
So this reporter is asking, are you willing to share the data? That's the question here. Notice that is the question. The question is, are you willing to share the data? He didn't ask him who did it, who didn't do it, who said that. He said, you have made a statement. Are you willing? We don't basically, people don't trust any of these people, which you should. I mean, these are the same people that lied to you every day, lied about the pandemic, and then censored you when you told the truth. And they're going to try and tell you something that you cannot independently confirm. So he's like, he's kind of saying, I want to independently confirm this kind of stuff or let anybody do that. Will you share the data?
Are you willing to share the data that you have that the president used?
So let's a couple things here. So
No. There's not a couple things. He asked, are you willing to share the data? What do you mean there's a couple things here? It's basically a yes or no question.
First of all, don't conflate other reporting and media reporting with where we're necessarily getting our information from.
It's hard for me not to swear when I hear this kind of stuff.
There's lots of questioning of what the president claimed and what the Israelis are saying, noting
He's saying there's a lot of questioning about what you're saying and the Israelis are saying.
that many hospitals have been targeted.
So then his answer is, don't conflate. What are you talking about, bro? We're trying to reconcile who's lying.
The president used
So
to say.
let's a couple things here. So first of all, don't conflate other reporting and media reporting with.
Nobody said that. Nobody's conflating anything. You said something, they said something, they said something, and none of it's lining up. Nobody's conflating anything.
Where we're necessarily getting our information.
Nobody said anything about where you're getting your information from. Is that trustworthy to you? The question was, are you going to share the data? Remember, that was the question.
From right,
See, he has a list of talking points. Just because he looks more kind of composed than Karine Jean-Pierre, he's doing the same thing. He has his notepads or whatever there, and he's just going to these broken off, pre-scripted answers. That's why he's not even answering the right questions. So he knows he's looking down there when they talk about Israeli data or whatever. You say we have our own data, even though that's not even the question. There wasn't really, he was just saying that there's different questions here. He has talking points that no matter how it's brought up, you bring it back to here's our data.
Certainly have
Or we get our own information.
our own capabilities, some of which does include open source information, but we have other capabilities.
So that's how he's saying some of it includes getting what Israel might get, or open source, or basically anything from X or anywhere.
And you know, as you know, the White House put out a statement yesterday on this topic. So when it comes to informing our senior leaders, we are using our own information to make those assessments.
Nobody said you weren't. He just has a talking point. So that's strike number one. You're not even listening to the question, not answering the right question. You're very defensive here. We're using our own. Nobody, at least in this clip, maybe something happened earlier, I don't know, but in this clip, nobody said that you weren't using your own information.
Assessments. And as you've heard us say right now, based on the information that
based on the right now, you heard us say right now, that means it could change. Based on the information we have, that means they don't know for sure.
Make those assessments. And as you've heard us say right now, based on the information that we have, it is our assessment that Israel.
It is right now, based on the information we have, it is our assessment. All of those are weasel words.
Was not responsible for that explosion. We're continuing.
If you're very confident, there's no problem with the Pentagon could say, we can definitively tell you Israel didn't do it. They could absolutely say that. If they were very confident in it, they could say, we can definitively wrap, easy, done. Israel didn't do it. So you're hearing the president use rhetoric like that. But when you talk to the Pentagon's like, right now, based on the information, we think hedging, harming, they sound like they're in a congressional hearing.
That we have, it is our assessment that Israel was not responsible for that explosion. We're continuing to assess that.
Then not only that, on top of it, he says, we're continuing to assess it. What is left to assess if you know that they didn't do it? What are we assessing?
Initial indications are.
Initial indication. Do you hear the weasel words in like 5 seconds?
That this was from an errant rocket that was launched by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
So that's a very important Palestinian Islamic Jihad. On Air Force One, Joe Biden said Hamas. Those aren't the same groups. So there's all kinds of inconsistencies here. I'm telling you, if Joe Biden's in the briefing, they would be telling him it's the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, not Hamas. You can't say Hamas did it. And not only did Joe Biden say it, I'm going to play another clip here where they keep saying Hamas. They're going back and forth.
But again, we're going to continue to assess this. And that's where we're at on this particular topic right now. But again, just to reassure you.
Again, he said we're going to continue to assess it twice.
We're not necessarily relying on other reports or media reports to come to those conclusions.
So we asked, were you going to share the data? Then you went all offside. You went on a side mission. I asked you if you're going to share the data. I guess that's a no. I guess we take that as a no. Does that sound trustworthy to you? I don't know what's happening. So if you hear anybody out here confident saying that Hamas did it or it wasn't Israel, they're more confident than the Pentagon is. Is that a statement that you want to be in? Is that a position that you really want to take? So then we saw this clip here just solidifying that something is wrong.
As you know, there's mistrust of what the Israelis say and actually of the U.S. position as well.
So she comes straight out and says there's mistrust of the Israeli position. There's mistrust of the U.S. Remember, we're not there. I'm going to show you footage from Lauren Southern. She got it from Instagram that shows you how powerful. This is just stuff that people have. I don't know who this person is that she got it from. What do you think the government has? When I wait for this, we want to show you this video.
As you know, there's mistrust of what the Israelis say and actually of the U.S. position as well. Because there are previous administrations that took us to war in Iraq on a lie that was defended on a very high level, including.
Yeah, I like this. Who is this woman right here? So I turn my volume down. Hopefully it matches the audio of the low audio because I just don't have time to dump all of this and fix the audio. It just takes too much time.
U.S. position as well, because there are previous administrations that took us to war in Iraq on a
Previous administration took us to war in Iraq on weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist.
lie that was defended on a very high level, including behind this podium.
Yep.
That's why people are cynical when you hear something.
Yep. We know who Rumsfeld, we know who Colin Powell, we know who defended that.
We might not know the truth, but would the United States support an international investigation?
So the question is, would you support an international investigation? That's a simple, clear question. Is there any reason to say no to that question? I think you could probably guess where this is heading.
That's
I do not believe that is appropriate at this time. The Israeli government has released a
It's not appropriate at this time. And you think I'm supposed to trust this? Can we do an investigation, an independent international investigation? It's not appropriate at this time.
support an international investigation. That's
I do not believe that is appropriate at this time. The Israeli government has released a great deal of evidence to support their contention that this was a misfire rocket attack from inside Gaza that unfortunately landed on this hospital and killed, it looks like, hundreds of civilians.
So now it did kill hundreds. Where are we at with that?
The U.S. government is conducting its own assessment. And I would just say, from Hamas's side, we've seen a claim backed up by zero evidence. And it is unfortunate that a lot of people believe a claim from a terrorist organization in absence of them having provided any evidence at all, when you are seeing the Israeli government provide evidence.
Well, what if you're the terrorist organization? All y'all are terrorist organizations in my book.
I know people treat that skeptically, and I understand the reasons why, but I would hope that people who are trying to determine what actually happened would look at the fact that Israel has released information and Hamas has not in this instance.
Thank you.
No, let me go ahead. Go ahead.
So the biggest takeaway from that is, no, we don't want an investigation. What are they hiding? I don't know what it is, but they're hiding something big. I don't know if it could be completely unrelated. Who knows? When you start sniffing around and doing investigations and stuff, who knows what you find? There's something that they're hiding, though. Here's a picture of a video of a car burning. Car on fire. This is not in Israel. In fact, it's not anywhere. In fact, not only is it not in Israel, it's not real. This is a video game. You know, I remember years ago, my parents would see me playing the old basketball games. They did not look realistic because the graphics weren't that good, but the graphics had gotten better than Nintendo 16-bit. And they would be like, damn, that looks kind of real. No, we're actually getting to the point where the video games, you can't tell the difference. This is the Unreal Engine. So not only can you not tell the difference between what is real or not from a picture, you can't tell what's real or not from a video. That goes from a Hamas video, that goes from an Israeli video. The technology is insane right now. It's a fake video. There's no way I would have been, with my naked eye, been able to tell that that was a fake video. There's just no way. Lauren Southern posted this, said this video was generated in Unreal Engine. That's a long ways from Gears of War. Anybody play Gears of War? Any video game people? That's probably the last time I played video games was Gears of War 1, 2. I think I dabbled in 3 a little bit. I don't even know what happened after that. Anybody remember the bouncing off of walls with the shotguns? I don't. The Gears of War was fun, man. That was Unreal Engine. Gears of War was especially 1 in the prime. 1 was really fun, man. People would go out with their sniper rifles, and then they would try to do like all kinds of tricks with the sniper and stuff. That's some good gaming back then. But it's for real. And Lauren Southern says it's crucial to understand what fifth generation warfare looks like. Social engineering and misinformation is the name of the game. And it absolutely is. I'll go to the chat real quick. How are y'all feeling? No Reason has a list of talking points because he has a hierarchy. Yes. Who is that creepy guy? Which one was the creepy one? Oh, that last one? What I see him all the time. I forget his name. You talking about the last one that was answering the questions? I forgot his name. I don't see his name. I just completely forgot his name. But they, he's one of their talking heads, basically. So, yeah, and we saw earlier today that actually shots were fired, but shots were more intercepted. Shots were intercepted overseas, and it's escalating situation already. There was a guided missile destroyer, a U.S. guided missile destroyer, the USS Carney, intercepted 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones near the coast of Yemen. This is not a small like news story. In the coast of Yemen, they intercepted weapons. So we're out there right now with, I believe we have 2 cruisers out there. And let me show on the map where we're talking about. I'm just going to put a map up here. So I don't know exactly where in Yemen. Yemen is right over here, isn't it? I can't even find Yemen on the map. Where is Yemen? Isn't it right over here? Where's Egypt? Oh, over here. Yeah. I'm like, where's Egypt? Here's Egypt, so here's Yemen. So it's somewhere, I don't know where we're at over here. And then obviously Israel is up over here. And we're seeing this is where the action's popping off over here. So we got reports that I don't have the exact. It's Carney intercepted 3 land attack cruise missiles and several drones near the coast of Yemen. So they're down over here. That is such a, what are we doing way over here? It's just so big of an area to have to deal with. And then you have Iran over here. The rich, Dubai's right here. A lot of rich people, oil money over here. Like, this is big money over here. Saudi Arabia, so we're right all over here. We got tensions, even with Saudi Arabia, we got tensions right now. Kuwait, and then Iraq is over here. So you got Iran, Iraq, Syria, and then beef is popping off somewhere over here on the coast. I don't know where. And they said that the shots weren't necessarily aimed at the U.S., but they intercepted them anyway. The interception occurred, okay, they did say in the northern Red Sea. Let me double check where we're at here. So it came from Yemen, near the coast of Yemen. So that's weird how they said they're in the northern Red Sea. I don't understand what that means because this is the northern Red Sea and Yemen's down here. So I don't understand exactly what it's saying here. This is sourced by Reuters, and that's just Reuters. Source from Reuters. The action marked a significant U.S. military response in a region fraught with tension. So there are Iranian-backed Houthi rebels assumed to have launched the missiles and drones from Yemen. And these are the same Houthi rebels that I believe Joe Biden took off the terrorist list in 2021. The U.S. Department of Defense Pat Ryder confirmed the interception, highlighting the readiness of the U.S. forces in the region. So the U.S. Carney is in the region as a part of the U.S. military's broader strategy to deter further conflict and ensure stability in the Middle East. Interception was carried out to neutralize potential threats in the region, with U.S. officials indicating the missiles, although their exact target remained uncertain, posed a threat that necessitated a response. Following this incident, the Navy deployed USS Mount Whitney to the eastern Mediterranean to support operations amid the ongoing conflict. So we're out there and we're already having to intercept missiles out there. And this is the map. And so we're looking at Yemen down here. This is the Red Sea. I don't know what we're looking at with they said the northern Red Sea, that would be closer to Israel up here. I know that's way far away from Yemen, but I don't know what's going on. But that's where all the beef is popping off right now. We have at least 2 carriers in the region. And Egypt over here says they don't want any, they open up the pathway to provide humanitarian aid, but they don't want to take any refugees. Egypt said they're good. Jordan said they're good. They don't want any refugees. There's no place for the Gaza refugees to go. And reportedly that teddy bear was on the West Bank, and they're probably, I don't know where the ground assault is. I'll probably look right now live. This is up north, is where they're thinking that they would start the ground assault, is up here, and refugees are fleeing down to the south. And while all that's happening, they're bombing to get a path through. A lot of action going on over there, obviously. Let me go through. I'm going to go through to the New York Times real quick just to see what the quick newest updates are. Then I'll be out. They're talking about Biden reaffirming his support for Israel, basically. Trucks loaded with food and medicine are lined up as UN-led deal lays the groundwork for aid to reach Gazans. There's a full script of his speech. I'm not seeing anything on the ground surge yet, though. So the Sidney Powell stuff, I can touch on it for briefly here, and then probably be out. Sidney Powell did a plea deal, and I think it's the time to talk about separating is now, if never before. Because we can't assume that the Supreme Court is going to get Donald Trump out of this. He shouldn't be in it. I'm not trying to get the Supreme Court to get him out of something. If Donald Trump had done something illegal, I'd be the first person to be up here saying he did something illegal and this is all legit. This is the way it should go. I'd be the first person to say that and break that down. I've actually broken it down and seen the opposite. Not one of the counts that I've seen, not one of the, I think it's 90, it's over 90 counts. Not a one is legit. But let's look at this one here where Sidney Powell, this is what they always wanted to do. They don't care about none of these other people. They want to get them to flip, to at least put pressure on Trump, because I think even they think the Supreme Court's going to kind of put the kibosh on this, but they want to at least hem him up. 2 weeks after Donald Trump lost the election, Sidney Powell rallied to the cause, keeping him in office during a news conference. So they remember she was up there. I think that was the one where Giuliani was sweating whatever the dye from his hair or whatever was sweating. And she made all that. That was the Kraken speech, I believe. On Thursday, fast forward to Thursday, in a move that caught the former president and his advisors by surprise. Oh, I don't know why they would be surprised by this. That's probably just a New York Times thing. Ms. Powell pleaded guilty to election interference charges in Georgia and agreed she's not going to be the only one to testify. She's just the first one, but it's a domino. A lot of them are going to. She pleaded to misdemeanors, testify against the other defendants in the case, Mr. Trump among them. The unexpected development was a significant. Significant victory for Fannie Willis, the district attorney who filed the election case this summer. But it was arguably even more important for Mr. Trump, marking the first time that anyone who was closely tied to his attempts to stay in power had reached a cooperation deal. And so that does. It is a significant thing that happened. But I think the bigger thing is you've got to stop giving these things legitimacy. The gag order from Jack Smith, now you've got the flipping in Fannie Willis, and now you don't know where this is going next. You don't know where this is going to end. You don't know where this is going to go. This one's on a state level, so you're not going to be able to do a pardon type of thing on this. We're going to be quickly going into none of these cases are on track to be done before the next election. But we don't know how do we even proceed? How can we, let's say Donald Trump wins. Does the case just be put on hold until his term's over? Obviously, the state of Georgia cannot bring in a president on charges. I mean, you just can't do that while he's an active president. You just can't. That would, your country is so over at that point. It's just impossible. And that would mean any state prosecutor could just bring up charges, whether they're true or not. You could bring up charges. If they're not true, then they get dismissed. And, if a state didn't like Joe Biden, they could press charges and bring him in. They could handcuff him and bring him in. You can't, it just won't work. You just can't do that. When they're active president, the only recourse is impeachment. If they get the votes to impeach him, then you could do it because he'd be out of office. But the cases aren't going to be resolved by the election. We're not expecting that. Not even close from what I've been hearing, that the cases will be finished before the next election, 2024, November. So we've got to find something. What are we going to do before that time frame? I don't know if that's I don't think that's getting to the Supreme Court. I don't even know the path there. I have to double check and look into that. But you can see quickly we are going down a path where you can't go backwards. And I think the best idea, the most peaceful idea, is to separate. And it's not going to happen in time for this to go, but it's still the right thing to do, and it's still a thing that has to be done. So I don't care if the separation takes 20 years. It has to be started now. It has to be started now in order to give ourselves a chance to head somewhere where we can coexist as different nations, but still coexist on the same continent. Because right now we can't under where he's going, where this is going. You're going to have Donald Trump pretty soon with that gag order. They're going to be able to do something else. He's not going to be able to meet the requirements of the gag order. That's just not possible running for president. It'd be impossible. He could accidentally say one word and you could say, hey, is it contempt? What's the next thing that you do? So I think if you look at it, you break it apart, and what does that look like? It's counties leaving states. Because you look at Georgia, it's just the blue area. Let's look at the map of Georgia. Let's look at the political map of Georgia. Georgia 2020 county votes. Let's look at the election map of Georgia, and this is what we're dealing with. This is Georgia right here. And you've got just a couple blue areas where the urban areas where the Democrats basically use black women and black people like Fannie Willis, and they have those corrupt areas on lock. These are not trustworthy areas. Fulton County, Maricopa County, Phoenix, and we've gone through those. It came down to about 5 or 6 counties, I believe, the election. But what it represents is these counties can't be in the same state anymore. So either the state's got to be taken over by one side or the other, And what I mean by side is everybody doesn't agree, but some people who agree enough to be able to share a government. That's the big thing. So you have to either break it down by county, or you have a state be taken over by one side or the other. Either or. But that's kind of what it looks like. So Georgia would have to be all red, and not just like, and maybe you have different factions. Maybe you have a Brian Kemp red and a MAGA red, because Brian Kemp is not, I mean, he's basically blue. But these places voted for Trump, and that's Trump red in many of these counties. Some of those counties might be Brian Kemp red, but you might have to break Georgia up to 3 different sections. But I think the best way is to peacefully and willingly, either these blue areas get taken over, or, and in the same thing in other states, you have a blue state, maybe, I don't know if it's California or whatever, the blue takes over, and either the other areas assimilate or you vacate, is what it looks like. Jordan Lott, I want libertarians to win and get elected. Let libertarians kick some butt. Dave Tupac Taco Libertarian Smith. That's funny. So Jordan, do you know any of the libertarians that Angela McArdle was talking about on Timcast? I've not gotten a chance to look into them. Angela McArdle was on Timcast yesterday and rattled off libertarians that are going to be running potentially for the party. You can't give ish leftists an inch because they will use the oppressive machinery of the state to crush you with the $billions of taxes. Let me put that back up there, that they will crush you with. Yeah. Ryan Smart says, I don't like the idea of separation because we have been a beacon of democracy for the world at this point. Communism has taken over the rest of the globe. Basically, I know it's cliche, but a lot of people say that communism has taken over the United States, but that's basically what it is. Just centralized power, just a form of centralized power has taken over the United States. I think separation is the only way to combat centralized power, is decentralizing power. I think it's the only way to combat it. Otherwise, we're trying to play in a system that is rigged, obviously rigged and against you. And I don't think you can win in that. The only way you win in that is if you fight in that system. And I'm not looking for any type of political, basically doing to them. Like, so they got Donald Trump hemmed up with 4 charges. If you don't want separation, then your goal is to get to the point where you can get Bill Gates or Hillary Clinton or who's Joe Biden, or he's irrelevant, but Gavin Newsom hemmed up on 4 charges. So they made up these charges on Donald Trump. If you're going to stay in that system, you've got to get to the point where you're aiming to get power to make up charges against Michelle Obama or Barack Obama, or, I mean, some of them might be real. Either way, charges against them in the same way. Otherwise, you're not in an equal system. They made up charges for Donald Trump. They made up charges, arrested him 4 times. So unless you can go do, I obviously don't want to play this game. I'm just saying, if you want to stay in this system, the only way to stay in the system is if you can. They run up in the Capitol, yelling for a Semite, cheering on one of the Semites that are fighting each other in the Middle East. You go Semite with the green and white and red flag. We go with you. And until you can hem them up, until you can get the control of the FBI, tear gas them, incite them, then arrest them, do a fake committee against them, until you get to that point, how are things fair? How is it the same? That's why I said there's the only option is to get out of it. If you were forced to stay in the system, you'd have to be able to do the retribution or revenge, however you want to call it. You would have to do it back. Otherwise, how could you be equal? So, and I want no part of it. Somebody was talking about Vivek. Vivek's interesting. I mean, I like Vivek. He's not libertarian though. And looking back at it, I wish somehow I could have talked to. I think Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai would have been perfect for the Libertarian Party, to be honest with you. I didn't even think of it until I had a conversation with him, and I was like, "Are you libertarian like?" And I don't think he had even thought of it. And he was like, and I think he was like, "What do you think? What do you mean by that?" And I was like, my basic spiel about the peace, decentralization, prosperity. He's like, yeah. Basically, he's like, yeah. And I'm like, damn. That's who I would have chose. He would have been perfect for the Libertarian Party. And the way he brings that heat, I don't know these other candidates, but Comic Dave Smith brings heat. He's very respectful with it, but we live in an age where you got to pretty much bring some heat, or you're not. Like, that's the problem Ron DeSantis is having. He's not a heat bringer. He's not like someone who comes out and firebombs people. Even Trump, even though Trump's not 2016 Trump, he still brings a little bit of heat. Yeah, I'm not. What if they don't want you to see like Lincoln did? I can't control that. I know they won't. I fully understand and predict that. That's why you still need to have some type of relationship to say, wait, I want to secede peacefully. I'm not looking to take over territory from you. We can work this out. I'm fine with paying off some of the whatever is the proportional part of the national debt. We can work that out too. This is not on some beef stuff, but yeah, we know that. But they're beating our ass now. Why are we worried about if they're gonna beat our ass later? I think you guys know what I'm doing when I'm looking for this.
In order to prevent us from whooping your ass in the future, we have to whoop your ass right now. This is psychopathic behavior.
It is. They're right now beating our ass. They're putting people in jail for 7 months for memes. So what am I? Yeah, and they are going to attempt to beat that ass. There is no doubt about that. But they're doing that now. So if they don't want it, I'm on defense. I don't want any beef to pop off like that. But we know that how they roll. They will label you as a terrorist, whatever, they've already teamed up with the federal government to go after people. So that all that smarter minds than myself would have to plan for that. But that doesn't change the fact that we need to separate. We don't need to be playing in this system. There's no way. You have to go so far. That's if you go at Barack Obama and arrest him 4 times, that's just even. That's not even escalating it. That's just getting back to even. And that's not even even. Obama's not even relevant. Donald Trump is still relevant right now. Who's the relevant person on that side? Hakeem Jeffries? He's not. You wouldn't. So because Barack Obama isn't relevant, to get to even, you would have to arrest Barack Obama 4 times and Hillary Clinton 4 times. And I think that you both of those, what did they say? Like in chess, a knight and a bishop is about a rook. Maybe is it a little bit more than a rook? I haven't played chess in a minute. I think it's like half a piece more than a rook. So that's what we're talking about. And that's even. That's not even like escalating the situation. That's like getting back to zero. Which path makes more sense to you? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm missing something. Am I wrong? Is that not just getting us back to even? Basically, they smacked you in the face, and that's not even counting the domestic terrorists for the parent. Basically calling concerned parents terrorists. That's not even counting J6. Do you imagine everything that you would have to do back to them just to make it even? I mean, this is insane. And number one, would you even want to do that? I don't even want to do that. So I don't even know why we would even consider staying in this relationship. If I'm going to risk everything, it's not going to be to stay in this relationship. That's for sure. They putting people in the gulags for memes. What if the only choice they offer, what if the only choice they offer option are being a commonwealth like Puerto Rico? That's not an option. It's a different country. You got to work with different states, but it's not going to be like you option. No, it's not going to be option. There won't be no options. Like it's just like a marriage. It's like saying, well, I want a divorce, but what if you only give me the option for this? No, I'm getting a divorce. Guys are laughing. Doesn't matter though, because the administration doesn't give a kernel of shit about the Constitution. Yeah, the Constitution is just like a guideline, and your morals are what really guide you around the Constitution. The Constitution is just like, here's what we laid out, and we agree about the world enough that we can agree on what we laid out. So you couldn't take the country of Iran and give them our Constitution and have us look at it the same way just because it's the Constitution. And that's what's happening in our country now. I was thinking earlier today, just randomly while I was at work. I was like, wouldn't it be funny to play like a game where you play some of these clips? I'm looking at some of these clips of the protests, and it's just, I mean, it's really amazing. I'm looking at it, and at the first glance of the protest, I don't know what country it is. So like, I'll give you a protest here. So I'll go in here and show you a protest. Quick, tell me, is this Jordan or Chicago? Is this Jordan or Chicago in the USA?
About the city's plan to build a tent encampment for migrants.
Is this Jordan or Chicago? Is this Mexico or Chicago? Quick. This is actually Chicago. You actually wouldn't know, like, with a lot of these protests that are happening. So this one has a picture on it, and it shows you that's in Chicago. Without the caption over it, would you know where this was?
All right, guys, we love Chicago.
Maybe you could recognize where that is. I think I kind of recognize where that is in Chicago. Chicago's a cool city. Well, used to be at least. Quick right here. Is this... Quick right here. Is this Lebanon or Dearborn, Michigan? Quick. Quick. Just a sea of people. You don't know. What country is that? You might recognize the buildings or whatever. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't know what country it was. That's Chicago. That's Chicago, everybody. Like, you put that in front of people, they would be like, I don't know, that must be somewhere in the Middle East, right? This is with the Palestinian flags and thousands of people. No, it's about 20 minutes down the street from you in the United States, where you live in the suburb of Chicago. Your schools are done. Like, they in the schools, like in high schools, doing the same stuff. Like, we let them get away with a lot. The schools, and when I said that the rainbow flag was a symbol of hate, what we're seeing is that manifest. It's the same people with the rainbow flag. It's the same people with the Black Lives Matter. Same people doing all this stuff. I think you could do a game show like, quick, is this the Middle East or is this New York? You wouldn't, unless you recognize a building, you would have no idea. We've allowed them to turn schools into hate organizations. I mean, it's very similar to those videos you've seen from overseas where Hamas had indoctrinated them to hate Jewish people. It's the same thing we're seeing in the schools. I mean, where schools not much different. This is purportedly Balboa High School. Which country is this in? This is a high school. Is this a high school in the Middle East or in the United States? Quick. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Do you know? Quick. Is that in Palestine or is that in San Francisco? Oh, that's gotta be in Palestine. That's in the United States. That's San Francisco. Your country is so over. I am so this girl. This girl comes up the stairs and she's like, "Oh God." This girl in the green, you can see it in her face. She's like, "What the hell?" She's like, "Did I like am I in quantum leap? Did I like time travel to like a different like location?" Look at her. It's very blurry, but her body language is with her arms crossed as a defensive, like protecting yourself, basically. Body language, you don't usually stand like that. And she just came up the steps and she's like, I can't walk down the hallways without people yelling, Palestine will be free in San Francisco. This is San Francisco. Palestine will be free. When will you be free? When will you be free of this nonsense? That's what I want to know. And that's what this girl in green wants to know. How about how would your Jewish classmates feel of this stuff here? It's just hate. And I'm more on their side, maybe potentially on this kind of stuff, but what you see is I'm on the American side. So I would be like, I don't need to support Israel. I don't need to support Palestine. I wish everybody the best over there, but let's take this situation and make our San Francisco high school the best with my Jewish classmates, with my whatever, LGBTQ, all these different people. We're Americans, so let's make our school the best. Let's use this situation to make our city the best. We've got a lot of issues that are going on in San Francisco. If you care about San Francisco, it's a beautiful city. One of my most favorite spots I've ever been to. I haven't been there since about 2014, 2015, I think. And maybe we can help make our city better because that's where we live. That's where my family is. That's where we are. Palestine is 7,000. From there, it's probably 8,000 miles away. And those Semites don't care about me. And let's make this, even if you have relatives over there, I'm here now. Why are you here? You can go on over there then if you're that concerned about Palestine being free. But that's purportedly San Francisco. I mean they're saying it in English, so I guess that gives it away. Here's another one. Quick. Which country is this from?
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Don't mind them. They're just Oakland high school students trying to get some extra credit. They're like 15-year-old kids yelling, Palestine will be free. Why would 15-year-old kids be in America yelling about Palestine being free? Wearing masks outside. Like they're wearing the masks now just to hide their identity. So in America, we've got illegal immigrant Mexicans yelling for Palestine to be free. Other than that, everything's fine. I think we're good. Other than that, we've got Venezuelans who came through the country illegally who are yelling for Palestine to be free. And nowhere in that equation is like Western culture, American values, even neutrality on the country. They hate the country. Other than that, everything's good. Other than that, I haven't played this video. It's been going around a lot. I will play this one. And, I will be out. Wow, it's later than I thought. I will be out. This is. Oh wow! Oh wow! They took down the video from what's his name? Wow! They did the copyright. They did the copyright claim on the video that had Bassem Youssef that I played yesterday. They did the copyright claim. They had to take it down. They took it down. He gave the most miraculous. I got it saved. He gave the most miraculous beatdown. They're probably gonna copyright me on YouTube now for playing it, even though it's clearly fair use the way that I used it. He just completely annihilated Piers Morgan, and it was kind of embarrassing. So they went with the copyright claim. Why would you do that? You would want your video going viral, right? I mean, that under organic circumstances. Wow, that's funny. So this is the one I wanted to show you. You guys probably saw this. Chad Unbothered. Who is this dude? This is is he Canadian? What? I don't even know who he is. So this is Pierre. How do you pronounce his name? I won't even get into that. Let me see how you pronounce his name before I even get into this. So he's a Canadian politician. Looks like it's French. Is he in Quebec or something? Or Montreal? You pronounce it Pierre Poilievre. I'm just looking at it on Google. So this is, I call him Chad Unbothered, so I don't really care what his name is. He's getting questioned by this is the perfect picture to have it on. He's being questioned by a journalist. Look at his face. That pretty much sums up the interview. We're going back to back with Chad interviews today. Here we go. I can't wait for this. I've listened to it like 5 times. I listened to it 5 times, and I'm getting my anticipation to hear it again is just like through the roof. Let me see if I can get it here. Let me reload it.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
He's eating an apple, yo. He's eating an apple while this, this really bad journalist is trying to ask him questions. He's just looking at the guy like this is a doofus. And he's eating the apple completely unbothered.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological spectrum.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways,
I don't really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so yeah. You must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not sure. I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense. Okay. Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades. I'm going to cap spending, cut waste, so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You'll want to be able to pay your mortgage again? You want to be able to afford rent? Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power of your paycheck.
It's so good, man. Man, these people this is how you dream of being able to handle back to back. Yesterday we covered it. Today I didn't even cover the full interview. I only did half of it yesterday. It was just, man, it was outstanding. And this dude's eating an apple, and he's just up there. He's not going to answer these questions if they don't make sense.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological.
I love that question. Just define, what do you mean by populist? Because for me, that has nothing to do with emotions. For me, it is always defaulting, no matter what it is, defaulting to putting power, decentralizing power into the hands of as many people as possible. So that's why when people say, are you for repealing the 19th? No, I'm a populist. So I want as many people as possible to have the power to vote. The problem isn't the 19th Amendment. The problem is our elections don't have integrity. That's the real problem. But he's like a populist. What do you mean by populist?
Sort of strategy currently, you're obviously.
What kind of definition is that? That's not, see, you think he's a popularist? Like Steve Bannon said of Donald Trump, he told Donald Trump about populism, and Donald Trump said, "You mean a popularist?" No, a populist. Donald Trump still didn't understand popularist because he's thinking of who's the most popular. No, it's populist.
Taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing.
He's laughing because he's nervous. What is funny?
Well,
so I think he's trying to laugh like, oh, don't you know what that means? No, you don't even know what it means.
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would.
Appealing to people's more emotional levels? What is that? That doesn't make any even sense. If that's what your definition is, that's what it is. But it doesn't make any sense.
Yes, I mean certainly you tap.
I mean, it's a fair question. He's not even trying to be like an ass about it. He's like, I don't even know what do you mean? It's just appealing. Okay, give me an example of how I'm appealing to somebody's emotions, and he can't give an example.
Certainly, you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing, I mean, it's that.
So I don't know him. He says he doesn't talk like that.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways, I don't
really believe in that.
Okay. A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay. I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their...
Destroy this dude while eating an apple.
Vote, given, not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not
just
sure.
wondering.
I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why?
So it took a minute and 30 seconds to get through all the bull, and then now we have a legitimate question.
Should Canadians trust you with their vote?
See, everything else was just trying to smear. This journalist is like the physical manifestation of the headlines of the Daily Beast and all that, of the radical right wing or the populist. And they didn't even say populist. They don't want to do that. But they label you this or the Trump acting type person here or this. And he broke it all down to now it's just like a normal question. That's how it's done. I think eating an apple is a key. That's what I learned, is be casual, be a casual savage. That's the same thing I like about Carrie Lake. The next time a reporter runs up on Carrie Lake, I want her to have a Granny Smith in her hand. And how much more savage would that be than she already is? I'm a big supporter if you don't know. But I'm out. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Appreciate you. I'm doing updates on the Gaza every night, 11 p.m. Mountain. And if you want to continue the conversation on Discord, We're doing that. Great conversations on the Discord, posting memes and all kinds of stuff. Hit us up on the Discord. I'm gonna put the link in the live chat, and hope to see you there. Appreciate y'all. Peace. I'm out.